it's not that number. And there's a lot of different reasons to it. Sometimes we post a position, we end up having to cancel it because the department has decided to go in a different direction. Sometimes it's a hard to fill position and we have it posted for longer than we'd like. So there's lots of different reasons of why that number is a little bit lower. We have failed searches all the time where we post a position, we interview a lot of people, but we haven't found the person that necessarily meets the needs of that hiring department. So there's lots of different reasons why we have different types of hires, and it's typically a little bit lower than what we have, how many positions we've posted. So this number, this is 3.8. If you think of just last year, and you think of all the applications, only about 3.8% of them turned into a hire. I don't say this to be discouraging. I say this to be very transparent because it's so critical for you to take time and energy into applying for the positions that best meet your needs and your motivation and your skill set, and to put time into ensuring that that application is going to be one that's going to be noticed, because there's a lot of times that your application, if you don't take time to put all of your best foot forward, it certainly might not result in what you're looking for. And I do see it. See, look, I am able to manage more than one thing at a time. I see a question, and it says, does this include steps and student employment? So great question. All of these hiring statistics are only for regular full-time positions. So does not include temporary, does not include student, does not include faculty. So that answers that question, hopefully. So let's keep going down this road. I have a little bit more hiring statistics to share. The question to you, and this is a big one because we have a room full of individuals that currently work at the university. So whenever I'm talking to someone at the university, they always think that we only hire external people. And when I'm talking to people that are not yet employed at the university, they always think that we only hire people that are internal. So my question to you is, how many hires in 2019 were internal candidates, or not internal candidates, internal applicants, sorry. All right. These are some good numbers. And it is a mix of both. In 2019, it was about 1,300. And this number is about 35%, and it's what we've seen year in, year out, or give or take maybe 5%. It can get up to 40% or so. And the thing that I will say is that I do see externals get hired at every level and every grade of that we have at the university. A lot of times, though, our externals do come and make up some of our more frequently turned over positions, and those would be more of the entry level positions. So we typically have 35 to 40% internal and about 60 to 65% of external. Another statistic that I just want to throw out there is, and get your kind of insight of how many, or what do you think the average number of days it took for a job to go from job posted to a job, to offering a candidate the position? Oh, yes. So we see lots of different things, anything from 30 to almost 100 days. And I'm guaranteed that we've probably done a little of all of that. But our average time to offer would be 58 days. And I would say that this number is longer than I always think that this number can be approved upon. One thing that's important to note across the board is that all hiring at the university is decentralized and at the local area of the department. So typically this falls on the supervisor. If you are a supervisor, and even if you just think about your own supervisor, typically they have a lot of other things on their plate when all of their positions are filled. And when a position becomes vacant, they typically have to figure out how to backfill that position, whether that's doing some of the work themselves or distributing it. And we don't a lot of times give ourselves a lot of ample time to hire for positions. That's not an excuse by any stretch of the imagination, but it really is a push that I always have with hiring managers to really make sure that you do a very fair and equitable job, but you really make it a priority, because the sooner that you can get someone in there, the better it's going to be for your department, but also the faster you can make that hiring process. That candidate experience has certainly been an improved one, and hopefully one that they'll also experience when they're in your department as well. So this is it does take some time. The other reason why I see that this takes some time is because at the university we have shared governance, which is a wonderful thing, and I think really leads to a lot of great outcomes. But sometimes with a panel involved, that's more schedules to manage, and that can delay the process a little bit. And this is not something that I'm saying to discourage people, or and any of these numbers are not ones that I have that are anything but to just understand what we've seen in the past, and what typically we see year in, year out. But the reality of it is this is not the typical year. I think that we can sit here and probably have a day or a week or a month conference of what has changed in 2020. And as many of you hopefully know or understand, is that in March, to be specific, March 24th, we did go into a hiring pause for the university. And that was a really important thing for us to do, because there was so much instability of where we're going, what we're doing. However, leadership has certainly said, okay, we know that maybe we can't hire like we did in 2019 or before, but we do need to still hire. So there's a couple things that have happened. One, there is an exception process to the hiring pause, and we see leaders submit exceptions to the hiring pause every single day. And there's a group of individuals that are that review. These are our provost, our chief VP of human resources, and our executive VP of finance and administration. Look at all these jobs and make it that have been asked to have an exception, and they approve ones that we need to move forward with. And a lot of those decisions are based on having a university that, as the president has said, is thriving, not only to serve our students and our patients right now, but also is set up to continue to do that in the future. We have seen a lot of jobs posted. We also have in healthcare, those positions have their own control mechanism, and we're seeing lots of positions that come through. So we are posting positions every single day. In fact, for year to date, we have posted about 3,500 jobs. We've had about 6,000 applications, and we've hired about 2,500 individuals. Most of these, as you could only imagine, are in healthcare fields. They're also based on people and support that we need for student success. A lot of grant and research positions that I have been seeing as well. So those are the types of positions that we are seeing now. But we have, and you'll see as I jump into it, we have positions that are posted right now, and we have opportunities that are going up all the time. It might take a little bit more time for you to find something that meets your kind of desires of what you want in your career, but they are positions that are being posted all the time. Does that sound fair? Answer your questions about statistics. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about quality and quantity. When I first came into this position, I took a lot of my applicant experience into hand when I was making this presentation, just because I think that it's important, even though times have changed from when I first got my position at UK. But you know, applying to jobs at UK can be daunting, or even if you get a job at UK, applying to others with so much diversity out there can be a little overwhelming. The first thing that I will say is it's not a numbers game. If you get 100 applications out there, you're not going to guarantee that you are going to get one of them. It's more of a timing game. And what I mean by that is knowing how the system works. So one, we have a policy that says all regular staff positions need to be posted for a minimum of 7 calendar days. Now, a lot of best practices say you should definitely cover a couple of weekends, maybe a couple of weeks, but you really do need to cover a broader time than that, just those 7 days. But we still have a lot of departments that they feel like if they can shorten this time, they can shorten the time of getting the right candidate in their department. But they have to at least meet those 7 days for the position to be posted. The reason why this is important is sometimes if you're thinking that being very intentional and thoughtful about your career growth and what your next position might be is saying, okay, well, maybe I should just schedule a couple of times per week to search and apply for positions. Knowing that it's 7 days, this will allow you to not just stumble upon the job that meets all of kind of your requirements of applying to, but this will allow you to see what's out there on a regular basis and allow you to then apply to the jobs that you are interested to and have time to get all of your application materials ready for it. So I want to take a minute, and I think I will be able to manage this, but we'll see. I'm going to exit out of my, and enter. I'm going to exit out of the application or the PowerPoint and enter into our homepage. Can everyone see the homepage? Okay, I did it right, yay. So this is how I get to our homepage or our UK jobs. You probably have your way of getting to it, but I'm gonna kind of just say I always go to resources, go down to jobs, click search and apply. Pretty easy if you know where you're going. Obviously, it can be a little bit longer trail if you're trying to search for where you're going. So this is our UK jobs. All jobs have to be posted for regular full-time positions on this website. I want to just take a couple of minutes to familiarize yourself with how to use UK jobs, not because I don't think that you know how to use a website, but more because there are just some things that maybe you passed over to get to what you thought you needed to before. But I want to just show you, if you are going to be intentional about this every couple of days, what's the easiest way to say, okay, I just want to look at it and for 10 minutes, Tuesday and Thursday nights or something of that sort. So knowing the group that I'm talking to, we do have positions that are staff, faculty, temporary students, and nursing, and all. I'm going to go ahead and just click this button because it's going to do a search just to all staff positions. You do have the ability to click this search jobs. It will kind of get you to all jobs here. Create an account, log in. Those are some other things. And most of you, if you've applied for a position in the last 6 years, you are already familiar with this website. So let's go ahead and just click staff positions. So you can see that right now under staff positions, we have 443 positions currently posted. And that in those, we can go down this laundry list and look at all of those positions that are posted. But let me just walk you through a couple of the functions that I think are key to having some strategy around how you're going to look for a position. So you could use the keyword, which is certainly good. I'm just going to put marketing in here. If I put marketing in here and then hit the search button, you'll see that brings it down to 4. Now, when I put marketing, it will look at, you'll see none of these have a job title of marketing, although it could. It's really looking and doing a search for all the job summaries of seeing where the marketing is on the job summary. So if we just hit like program coordinator, and then I'm going to go ahead and put marketing, if I can spell it right, in here, you'll see that this is where it is. It's the kind of fourth area that this position is looking for, and that it's looking for marketing plans. So that's just how that feature works. The more narrow you are, you can see marketing is a pretty broad word. You can do the same thing for grant. You might be interested in managing the grant process. It narrows it down to 9 views. But that's how that keyword key search works. Now, if you don't, you're pretty open, which I'm going to recommend. Being open-minded is a great way of seeing what the university has to offer. If you then want to say, okay, if I'm going to do this every couple of days, I could probably take this posted within. So this says anytime. So we took all of our searches out, go back to the 444. That's posted at any time. But what if I want to know just what's been posted in the last day? If you click that, you can then see that there are quite a few things that have been posted in the last day, which is pretty impressive. Or you could also use the last week and see, and so on and so forth. So this just helps you with setting. If you have a requisition number, you can put it here. A job category, you can use these. I find them to be pretty broad, and they do work. But again, if you're going to, that one didn't bring up anything. So it's not as, you kind of want to keep this one a little bit more open. I don't think that it highlights as much as it should. A lot of times when you're looking for a job, you're looking for a job that is maybe a grade level higher than what you're at. So when you think about that, it depends on where you are and what grade level you're in. And at the University of Kentucky, we have 2 different grade levels, 2 different grade scales. So we have our hospital and our healthcare grade scale, and we have our campus one. So, if you're thinking, I'm currently a grade 39, and so I want to look at something that is higher than a 39. You can click on it, hold the shift button and the down arrow, highlight the grade levels that you want to look at, and then see which ones are being offered and narrow your search that way. I will say that when you do something like that, and maybe you're very interested in staying with on the campus side, but since those are only campus positions, you miss out on some healthcare positions that might also meet your skill set and your desired path forward. If you think about, maybe you don't want to work in the hospital, but there's a lot of other support areas, just like we have a lot of other support areas on campus for the hospital. So, accounts payable or finance or IT, all of those might be missed if you're just looking at campus grade levels. So I do always encourage you to be broader in how you're searching and not narrow, because it's always easy to go broad and then get more narrow by what you see. It's harder when you start narrow. There's a chance that you can miss something that might not be what you're looking for. And then these ones, if you're looking for a specific department, again, that's pretty narrow. Full-time, part-time, I think is important just because of what your demands are on what you need as a job, off-campus, on-campus. And remember, all of our positions, for regular positions, faculty positions, our staff positions, faculty positions, student positions, temporary positions, all use this same job website. So that's why some of these other functions are in there. So I'll go ahead and pause there. I'm going to jump back into my PowerPoint. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so I think we covered everything there. The next thing that I want to just take a couple minutes to talk about is, let me get it so I can see what we're looking at, is when you're thinking about the position that you're looking to apply for is, and we're still on this topic of quality versus quantity. So a lot of times you have to think about what skill set do you have, what experience do you have, and then what motivates you. And say that, you know, you are really good and very detail oriented, and you've been in accounting for lots and lots of years, and you have lots of good experience in that, but you have really had this aha moment that that's not what motivates you, and you want to take those same skill sets but apply it to something different. You want to think about both of those things when you're starting to look for a job and what might meet your needs. The first thing that I would go to say, though, is that your experience and your related kind of history might say what you're qualified to do and what you're not qualified to do. So we're going to jump back out of here, because the first thing that we need to do is understand minimum qualifications. So I'm going to jump into this program coordinator position. And if you look at this program coordinator position, you know, you can see things at the top: job title, working title, that typically, I'll get to your IEBC in a second. That typically means the working title is just something that maybe is a little bit more resonates with that department. It's not necessarily what the actual job. It can provide more details to that job. In this, it doesn't give me any more clarity, but maybe if I was working with this program, I'd better understand what that is. It says where the work location is, what the grade level is, salary range, and then it has something here that says required education and required experience. And so for this particular job posting, it is the BA means a bachelor's degree, and the 2 years is 2 years of related experience. If you click here, this is talks about an equivalency. All of our positions, and sometimes there are more strict regulations, but most of our jobs, in order to apply and meet the minimum qualifications, it's going to be a combination of what your education is and what your experience is in order to meet the minimum qualifications. So if you look at this example, if the job opportunity on the bulletin, which is the requisition that we just saw, requires a bachelor's and 2 years of experience, this is what could happen. If someone is applying and say they are applying and they have a bachelor's, let me go in order that they have here. They have a master's degree and they have no experience. They would mark that they have a master's degree, and the master's degree, if you look down here, would equate to a bachelor's degree and 2 years of related experience. So because it is exactly what the minimum requirements are for this position, that individual would just marking that they have a a master's degree with no additional experience would meet the minimum requirements for that position. It doesn't mean that that they are qualified to do the job or have the skills that the hiring department is looking for, but it does allow them to meet those minimum qualifications to get into the applicant pool. A bachelor's and 2 years of related experience, then that would mean that they would meet what's listed on the requisition itself, and that they would be able to get into the pool of applicants. If you had an associate's degree, then you would need a little bit more experience to meet that combination to get into the applicant pool. And so for this particular situation, it would be 4 years of experience in that same field. And then if you had a high school degree and no higher education, then you'd need 6 years. And this just allows a broader way of accepting applicants into the pool of applicants for us to then be able to forward those on to the hiring department. And I think we have a couple of questions, or at least one that looks, let me see. Okay, so this is about the salary range. And so let me go back to that position. So any questions on the equivalency? Because I can definitely touch base on the salary range too. Okay, if you do, just go ahead and type it in. That's how the equivalency works for you to meet the minimum education and experience or the minimum requirements for each position. And knowing that allows you to understand if you should consider applying for that position or not applying for that position, knowing what you know about your education and experience. For the salary range, I am going to say that this is a true lifetime of salary for that position. So if someone just meets the minimum qualifications, but is the best candidate for that position, that would be the minimum. To someone that maybe has been in the position and doing it successfully for 30, 40 years, that would be on the side of the maximum. And all of the in between are other, just kind of what experience and education has. It really just depends on salaries, kind of depend on three different things. One, what is the salary range? You can't give a salary that's not in the salary range. And then what is your education experience that you bring to that position? And then the other thing that we look at is how that slots in to the education and experience of anyone in that same job title, because that's how we look at equity, and we want to make sure that you are slotted into the appropriate place for where that salary range is. And then the other thing that is a big factor, and will always be a big factor, is what is the hiring department's budget in order to provide that salary? Because if that department doesn't have the budget, then they can't offer that salary. And looking at your question, to go to, I would say that it really just depends with all those factors. Hopefully that's kind of meshed it out. It's not one or the other. It just really depends on what you bring to that position, where you kind of slot in with any comparators that you have, is how I would say what types of questions you should, or what types of positions you should apply for. So let me go ahead. And I'm sure I've kind of gone a little bit off topic, but hopefully it's good information. The next thing that I have here, and I did say that I would get to the other person. I think one person asked about IEBC. IEBC is internal candidate being considered. And sometimes you will see an IEBC at the end of a job summary. It will say that an internal candidate is being considered for this position. That is typically a candidate that is in that department and maybe already doing that job. It could be in an acting role, it could be in a variety of different ways, but that a candidate that is very familiar with that position is also being considered. It does not mean that you should not and cannot apply. You certainly can apply to that position, and I always encourage hiring departments to make sure that they look very broad when they're looking for any and all of their positions. And sometimes it's easier hiring officials, if you already have someone that knows how to do the job, has been very successful in doing the job, it's sometimes an easier to see how they would be successful in the job. And sometimes when you're looking at applicant pools, maybe they haven't done exactly what you're doing, and so you don't know if they're successful or not. And so it could be a little bit harder to gauge if they would be successful in the job. But we do encourage, and best practice is for you to consider all the candidates in that applicant pool, regardless of its internal candidate being considered or not, and seeing which candidate is the best fit for the position and has the merit at the very end to do that job. But hopefully I've answered that question. The other question is how much weight is given to tip. So tip is also something that's called time in position. That is something that only the healthcare side of our institution use. And that is something that is used to see where you slot in with the time and position with your with other individuals in that same job title. And then you probably Is it necessary? So sometimes, I think if I'm understanding this question about, there's a question about equivalency that has like how much related experience, and that related experience is customer service. And so that is the related experience that they're using. And so therefore, you would want to include all the customer service experience that you have in order to see where you would fit with the remaining of the equivalency of your education. And then the last question that I have here, are officials obligated to report that they have an internal candidate being considered? I don't necessarily, I mean, it is in the best, it's a best practice. I think that they're pretty open if they're thinking about an internal candidate being considered, but we can only post it if we are aware of it. So hopefully I've answered all the questions up to this date or up to this time. If you have anything more, please let me know, but let me just keep going so that we can get through all the slides. So the other thing that I would say is that as a best practice is to always have your application materials ready and updated. And what I mean by this is that, you know, if you have a job and you are successful in the job and you're like, well, I'm not really thinking about applying to another job, but you just happen to find out that the best dream job has come up. And you always, when you get a new job, you always want to take a moment to go back, update your resume, update your application, because having these ready allow you, and you could always expand upon them, but having them ready to go for when you do see the right position is just a best practice and a tip that I give everyone. And then the other thing that we have, especially being a public institution, is we have the ability to look a little bit more into the jobs that we are, or the departments, I should say, that we are applying with. So I've had people in human resources that have applied for a job that I've had that have done some really great recon, and they've gone onto our website, they've looked at human resources, they've come to employment, they've looked at maybe trying to gauge what culture is, finding out what our priorities are. Do we have a strategic plan for HR? What is it that they are applying for outside of what's on the job summary? And this has allowed for really cool conversations to happen in the application process. I can remember when I was hiring an employment consultant, and that employment consultant read all of the information that we had on our website and was able to say, so I see that you have something that's called a hiring enhancement process. How would the employment consultant contribute to this? And to be completely honest, I was kind of taken. I was like, wow, you've really done your research. It certainly made me engage in a conversation that showed me that this person is willing to do work on their own and get just, it was very impressive in that process, because they were able to not only have a better interview with me, but I think they were also able to kind of shape their application materials knowing that information. All right, so moving on to the next phase is your online application. So one thing that's important to know is that in applying for jobs at UK, we have lots of different positions, we have lots of different ways that we can request materials. Every single job has to have an online application. So that's required regardless. So that's going to be very important for this. And it's also the application is what you kind of attest to that all this information is accurate, up to date, and representing of your true work history, your references, your supervisor, all of that information. So that application is really critical. Then we have resumes and cover letters. Sometimes for positions, these can be required or they can be optional. This is up to the hiring department. Remember, it's a decentralized process and it's what that hiring department wants to do. And it doesn't mean that most of the time you still have the option to share this information. I would say whenever you have the option, I would, obviously you have no choice about the application, but I'd always put a resume and I'd always put a cover letter. And the reason why is that a couple years ago, we had a panel that had hiring managers from all over the university. And someone asked a question, what's more important? Is a resume, cover letter, application? What is the most important thing to you? And I was like, oh, what are they going to say? And they ended up, true form, every single person is different. And so therefore, every single person's preference is different. So if you think you're only going to do an application because you think that this person really only cares about the application, it could be a hiring official that really thinks that the resume is, the first thing that they look at to get credibility of, do they have what I'm looking for? And then if they do, they'll take more time to look at the other application materials. There are sometimes that there are hundreds of individuals that apply for one job. The due diligence to go through all the application materials is a lot. So you want to make sure that each of those stand out, and you want to be inclusive of sharing all of those, because you do not know what the preference is for that hiring official. And the way that I see this is three different ways. The application should be everything. It's how we determine your related experience and your salary. So you want to make sure that you have every single related job on that job application and completely filled out. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Then you have your resume. Your resume should be a quick summary of what you are looking for, or what your experience is. But it should only be a page or two. It shouldn't be pages and pages and pages. Just because you have more pages doesn't mean that you have more experience. It just means that you need more words to talk about it. So being concise and being very, very succinct in the resume is important. And then the cover letter, I think, is a great bridge of saying, hey, hiring official, I have 5 minutes with you. Let me tell you how your experience that you listed on your job posting matches my information and experience on my resume, my application, and what I have grown to have over many years. And this is how they're related. A lot of times when we apply to a job, it could be apples to apples. You're looking for someone to do accounting. Here's accounting. Here's all the same terms. It could be a little bit broader, and it could be comparing apples to oranges. And so when you're comparing something that may not totally match the same terminology, then that's where the cover letter is even more important, because you're able to say, I know that you are looking for someone to enter stuff into SAP, to do this, to do this, to do this. And it's very specific, like vocab for maybe finance, but you have used SAP in different ways, and you've used all of what they're talking about in a different system when you had your job outside of UK. That cover letter really allows you to say, look, I know you're looking for this. I'm familiar with SAP. I'm familiar with these types of platforms. I think I can still do the job quite well. So that is kind of the difference between the three. Customizing your application. Customizing your application is critical. If what I do when I look at a job is I look at the job, I write out all of the competencies that I think they're looking for. Maybe it's customer service, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's, whatever they're looking for. I just kind of bullet it out. And then I know what's on my application. I know what's on my resume. I also know what's on my PE, which being at the university, what did I think that I do in my job, but what does my boss really think that I do well on my job? So I look at all those and I start to match them. And I make sure when I customize, it's not a one size fits all for your application. But if you know that this position that's looking for, they have started with these three criteria, or these are the top three competencies that they're looking for. Your application, your resume should at least start with those, so you can really say, look, I have what you're looking for, and I have all of this other stuff too. Making sure that you are able to speak their language, or go a little bit deeper. Maybe not all the positions you apply for need the depth of information when it comes to um, finance, so on those, you're going to make it short and sweet, but on the ones that are very finance driven, you're going to be very detailed in the types of finance competencies that you have experience in. So that's what I mean when I am talking about customizing your application. Don't rush. Make sure that you're answering your questions. So if you were in person, I would make you raise your hand if you have applied for a position that asks for a essay style posting specific question. And I probably see a lot of people raising their hands. And so most of our questions or most of our postings ask some close-ended questions, which are just multiple choice. They also ask some essay questions. The worst thing that I've seen, don't do this, says, see my application. As a supervisor or as someone looking at that, I'm like, oh, when I ask them to do something at work, are they going to say, you can do it? Like, I mean, it does not resonate well. If you're not willing to put the effort into answering the question that I've put in front of you as an applicant, when you're trying to put your best foot forward, how are you going to do the same thing as an employee? So I really would take anytime you have an opportunity to answer a question, think about this as having 5 minutes with your dream mentor in an elevator. What are you going to take the moment to say? Now, be on topic and answer the question that they're saying, but that's the type of mentality you should have when you're thinking about answering those questions. And also proofread them. I can't tell you how many times I have seen errors you can write them in Word, copy and paste, stick them in to the one, because sometimes, there's some pressure. That's why I say don't rush, because you don't want to be like, oh my goodness, it's going to close at midnight, I got to get it in, and just rush and put something there. That's not going to be the way that you want to present yourself. Always attach a resume or cover letter if it's appropriate. That's my recommendation. Proofread materials and be honest. If it said that it's looking for related experience in grant management and you've listed all of your experience and there's nothing that's related to grant management, then the hiring official is not going to think that you're being very honest and is not going to look any further if you meet the minimum qualifications for that job or not. I think I have 2 more things and then we'll open it up. Sorry, I've been long-winded. I apologize. So these are some common pitfalls that I see UK internal candidates falling in a lot. You get your job, yay, you start to apply for your next job, and you never update your current position. So take time, update your application with your most current position, because that at least gets you thinking about what it is. Not including job details. Same thing with the posting specific question. I've had people on job duties that just say, see resume. Doesn't do it for me. And I don't think it does it for a lot of people. Take time to list out what those duties are. And like I said before, customize it to what that job posting is looking for. They don't list their current supervisor. A lot of times people think that, well, if I list my current supervisor and they reach out and ask my current supervisor about me, I'm just not ready. I don't want to make my department scared that I'm leaving. It's just a position I really thought was cool. In that sense, there's something on, we've actually changed it so that there's a tab that you can say, only contact my current supervisor if I'm in kind of the candidate that's further along in the hiring process. So definitely make sure that you put that information on there, because I have hiring officials say, oh, they didn't put their current supervisor. What do you think they're hiding? No, they're not hiding anything. They're just not wanting to rock the boat. So go ahead and list out that additional detail. And then not including resume or cover letter. And last but not least, outdated references. A couple of quick things about references. One, make sure that the individual can speak to your work habits and your qualifications. It doesn't need to be a friend or a relative, but it needs to be someone that can work can speak about your work and your work history. You want to make sure that the information is up to date and accurate, and you also want to make sure that you ask before using a reference. I can tell you lots of different stories when people did not ask me to use me as a reference, and then it was in this particular case that I'm thinking about right now was a student. We have several students in our department every single year. The student stopped working for us 5 years ago. It took me a couple of minutes to even remember who that individual was. Also, let them know where you are in the process, because most people, if you're asking them, I mean, I would say, would you give me a good reference? And then once you have kind of confirmed that, then make sure that you give that person the time to think about how you were as an employee. Go back and look at your performance evaluations. What stood out as you? Why would they want to vouch for you? And how could they speak to your work ethic a little bit more thoroughly? So I kind of rushed through that. I have one more bit of advice, and then I want to get into some of the questions, because we only have like 4 more minutes, huh? I think so, yeah. Okay, so be patient. Ensure your application materials highlights your skills, your set, and matches your job responsibilities. And then find opportunities. So this is something, find opportunities of how to stretch your skill set and your knowledge and your ability currently. We are living through very, very strange times. You probably have opportunities right now to be creative, innovative. How do you still give good customer service when this is all that we get? Maybe it's additional personal notes. Maybe it's something else that you have found to go above and beyond. How can you maybe think about using technology more now than ever to do what we did every single day? But I think that you have a lot of opportunities to really highlight the time that we have in our jobs right now to then share as related experience for positions to come. So that's all I have. But let's see what kind of questions we have.
I've got them tabbed, Sarah. If
Okay.
you want, if you want me to just read them, I can roll with them. So I think this might be Career Center related, but Sadie asked, are there any resources to help employees with resumes?
There are. So on TND's website, there's the Career Center, and I think that they focus on alumni. There's this great resource for Job Club. Job Club, oh, I picked my email. Job Club is something that meets every other week. It's through the Alumni Association and STEPS. If you go to the Career Center and or I think, I'm trying to think where it is. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. So there's a plug for the Job Club. I know that Just Getting Insight, they have great development for career resources. I know that in nursing, Sue Stroop is someone that can help you with resumes, talk about where your career path could go. So in short, for nursing, I would say Sue Stroop through Nurse Recruitment, Career Center, Job Club, and then T&D's website does have some initial things for resume building. They don't have anyone in person right now or even virtual, but they do have some online resources for people.
Great. Thanks, Amanda, for adding that. Okay, so Michelle asked, where do you find the grade level for your current position?
I would ask your supervisor. I think that probably also is if you go to ESS, so your employee self-service tab, there's, if you go there, you can see it in, I'm trying to think what part you can see it in. Easiest thing I would do is ask your supervisor. It should also be on your performance evaluation. So through Success Factors, that's another place that you can find it. So hopefully those are enough resources to get you where you need to go.
And next one, is it wrong to copy part of your resume into the application to answer different questions?
Good question. I find it to be a little lazy. And if you want someone to look at the whole thing, most of the time your application is not going to answer a question to a T. And if it is, guess what? You just got more information and more time to get a little bit deeper into your response. So I would definitely try to avoid that, because it doesn't look like you are you're taking the easy route. I mean, you could say it's the more efficient route, but you want to take advantage of the opportunities that you have. And I think it's an opportunity to share more than just what you've already shared.
And Brittany asked kind of a student related question. When do you recommend someone in school to apply for a higher position? Before or after passing boards? Is there a preferred time frame?
So most of the positions that require some type of licensure or something of that sort, they will say that they have to be eligible for that licensure. So you'll have to make sure that you apply when you can accurately and honestly answer that question that you're eligible for license. So every single licensure plays a little bit differently. So you'll want to, I mean, the good thing is I would look at the types of questions that are there, see what you're going to be asking, and then, or what you're going to be asked, and then depending on your situation, apply when that meets or makes the most sense.
Right. Next question. I think we only have a couple more, Sarah.
Okay.
Is it accurate that applicants won't know they are no longer being considered until the position has been filled? Will that change?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's interesting because I think we try very, very hard to keep communication going. So you get the first communication to say you've successfully applied for the position. You get the next communication that you've been referred to the position. You get the next communication when the position has been filled. And it's hard because every single department does it a little bit differently. If you have, say, 12 people, you might first, that all are qualified for the position, you may first highlight the first 6 that you want to go through and look at all those. Some departments are interested in, if those don't meet the needs, to go to the next 6. Some, they might say, you know what, we already got what we needed, or we're not, you know, we don't think that the individuals that have that we have right now have the experience that we're looking for at this time. And so then they'll, that next communication would be that filled or that canceled communication. But being patient, because you also don't know, maybe that supervisor with everything else that's on their plate, they were delayed in starting the process. So going back to the just general advice of being patient.
Okay. And our last question is, does UKHR offer any individualized assistance in the job search for current staff, not alumni?
Oh, does the Career Center or does UK? Does UK, you said?
Yes. Does UKHR?
So that one's a little bit harder. What I would say, if you're really looking for something like that, our Career Center, or I'm sorry, our Career Development, there is a that's through T&D. I would go ahead, if you want that, send it to me and I will get it to the right person. So my email address is sarah.bose@uky.edu. If you send it to me, I will get you to the right person who would be able to provide that.
And we actually had just a couple pop in, Sarah. When the application asks for previous salary data, does that have to be 100% accurate, or are estimates acceptable? If it does need to be accurate, can you request previous salary data from UK?
Yeah, so it can be like in the range. It doesn't, I mean, we're not, you know, like, oh my goodness, that zero's off or something of that sort. So it can be in the range. You can always ask for employment verification on yourself if that's something that you want to be able to have that level of accuracy. But yeah, it's just a little bit more broad. We're not down to the details there.
Okay, and last one, do you give any consideration to the URM status of an employee?
Okay, so the thing that is important to know about underrepresented minorities is that that's part of your demographics. At the way that the application material works is that when you are prompted to make an application as the demographics, you are asked for that information. So you're asked for your gender, you're asked for your ethnicity, you're asked for your race, veteran status. If you're an individual that has a disability, those are all pieces of data that you are asked. It is voluntary at the stage of applications. That information is not tied to your application as it goes to hiring officials. We try to work with departments to cast as broad as net as possible, and make sure that their applicant pools, not by tying it to one particular person, but the applicant pool itself is a diverse applicant pool. We work with hiring departments all the time on just ensuring diversity in our applicant pools. So and then when you're hired, you then again are posed those questions for those demographic positions. And at that point, they are required. So the way that we look at underrepresented minorities is we certainly do everything we can to advertise and make sure that the applicant pool is as diverse as possible. At the end of the day, all hiring decisions at the University of Kentucky are based on merit. And so if we've done a good job, then we have a diverse group of applicants that all have qualities to do the position. And then it's just trying to figure out which one is the best fit to do that. So hopefully that's answered that question, but we do do everything we can to broaden the net for that applicant pool. Anything else?
Great. No, that is it, Sarah. Everyone
right.
says thank you very much for all the very useful information. It was very helpful, is what I'm gathering.
Good. I hope so. And I wish you guys all luck. And remember, just because we have less positions that are posted now doesn't mean that you shouldn't do things right now to prepare for when that job does come up. So update your applications, find opportunities to make differences in your departments. This is the time to do it. So thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Sarah. We appreciate you.
Bye now.